Jeni, you want to talk a little bit about CBD? We were talking on the phone last week. You said your office is almost like a CBD laboratory with all the products that are in there. So Jeni is from Colorado, has been involved with this for many years, and going to let us kind of know the status of everything.
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah, as a food lawyer in Boulder, Colorado, I am very much in the epicenter of this question of adding CBD to foods and beverages. And CBD is just experiencing an incredible national moment right now. And I think more so than any other food ingredient, it really is the highest potential reward, the highest potential risk, and the fastest changing area of the food industry right now. And what does that mean if you are a company that's really thinking about putting CBD into a food or into a beverage product that you produce? The first thing that you have to know is that it is not federally legal to add CBD to a food or beverage product right now. And the reason for that, and we have to kind of step back a little bit to really unpack the reason for that. So everyone in this room is probably aware that last year, well, really in 2018, the Congress passed the Farm Bill, and that included an exception to allow for the lawful marketing of hemp. And hemp is defined as cannabis sativa, which contains less than 0.3% THC by dry weight. And what that did is, for the first time, it said, okay, there's actually a possibility of having a legitimate national industry for cannabis in this one small sector of hemp. Now, what the Farm Bill didn't do is the Farm Bill didn't change the federal regulatory framework for the FDA with respect to foods, drugs, and dietary supplements. And the existing regulatory framework is that any consumable product is going to be regulated by the FDA. Now, at the time that the Farm Bill was passed, the issue is that FDA was already regulating cannabidiol in some sense, or CBD. And in that, in 2014, FDA had recognized a certain form of cannabidiol, which is a highly isolated, highly concentrated, and highly purified cannabidiol extract, as an investigational new drug. And what that means is that there's a specific provision under the overarching Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act that says it is unlawful to add any substance that is an investigational new drug or an approved drug into a food in the United States. Nevertheless, after the passage of the Farm Bill, we still saw this incredible proliferation of food and beverage products containing CBD onto the national scene. And really, we had a situation where the FDA was in a position where even if it wanted to, it couldn't actually regulate these products as foods or dietary supplements. So what did that really do to the industry? What it did is FDA was put in the position of, okay, what are we going to do about this? And they hosted a public hearing. They collected a lot of information. They received more than 4,500 comments into a docket that was basically open from May until July 15th of last year. And then instead of doing all the things that are actually available to FDA in terms of its enforcement toolbox, which are things like obtaining a permanent injunction or requesting or mandating a recall or doing anything like that, FDA has sent out a series of increasingly tersely worded warning letters to the industry. And because there are so many products out there, those warning letters have really only gone out to those companies that are marketing products with pretty egregious claims about how CBD can cure cancer or Alzheimer's or reduce depression or anxiety or things like that. And within the industry, that's kind of created almost a false sense of security. And if you're one of those people, I really kind of want you to hear this piece that, okay, if I'm gonna add CBD to my food or my beverage product, I'm gonna be okay as long as I don't go out there and make these aggressive drug and disease claims. And It's really it's not an appropriate or safe way to run your business, because CBD is not federally legal, and there's another audience that's really been paying attention to these warning letters that have been coming out from the FDA, and that audience is the plaintiffs' bar. And so just past December, we saw a wave of consumer lawsuits that were basically targeted not at food companies at this point, but at dietary supplement companies, for saying that you are misrepresenting that this product is legal for introduction into interstate commerce. And what kind of distinguishes this here is, normally there's this kind of pattern of, as night follows day, there's an FDA warning letter, and then there's going to be a consumer lawsuit against that same company. But the companies that were sued in December are not the companies who are out there front and center making these really aggressive disease claims. So while the first set of suits that we've seen here is against people who are in the dietary supplements, that prohibited act provision for foods sets up a really ready risk scenario if you are a food and beverage company adding CBD to your product. So you have to think about risk now, not only from the standpoint of there's always this overlying risk of FDA federal enforcement, but that you could be on the receiving end of one of these consumer demand letters. And there's really not that many things you can say back in one of these demand letters quite at this point. In addition, some states have kind of stepped up to the plate, and in some ways that's provided an opportunity, and in other senses it's actually complicated the picture. And states have said, you know, we see you, FDA, we acknowledge the federal position, but we're going to go ahead and allow for the introduction of CBD in food and beverage products in our state, as long as you meet certain conditions. And the problem with it is that most food and beverage companies aren't going to try and keep their product just in one state. And as more states are passing these laws, those laws are starting to come into conflict with one another. And it's really a constant game of catch up if you're a company to figure out what your path for expansion might really be. So with that, what I want you to take away is that there's risk at the federal level, there's risk of consumer litigation, and there's risk as you're trying to move from state to state if you're marketing a food product that contains CBD.